Before Tokyo became a forest of neon lights and towering skyscrapers, before bullet trains, crowded crossings, and endless rivers of people, there was only water, marshland, and silence. Long before the name Tokyo existed, the land beside Edo Bay was quiet and wild. Reeds bent in the wind across shallow wetlands. Fishing boats drifted through calm estuaries. Small farming communities lived scattered across the Kanto Plain, surviving from the rivers, the sea, and the fertile soil left behind by seasonal floods. For centuries, few could have imagined that this isolated marshland would one day become the largest metropolitan area on Earth. The people who lived here during the Yayoi period built simple homes from wood and straw. They fished the rivers, harvested rice, and traded with neighboring settlements. Life moved slowly with the rhythm of nature. Summers brought storms and humidity. Winters brought cold winds sweeping across the plains. They called this region Edo, meaning estuary gate. It was an important crossing point where waterways and land routes met. Travelers moving north and south through eastern Japan often passed nearby. Even in ancient times, geography quietly determined destiny. The Kanto Plain surrounding Edo was enormous, flat, and fertile. Rivers connected inland regions to the sea. Marshes protected settlements from invasion. What looked like empty wilderness to outsiders was actually one of the most strategically important locations in Japan. Still, for most of its early history, Edo remained small and largely unknown. While emperors ruled in Kyoto and powerful clans fought across western Japan, Edo existed far from the center of power. It was a distant frontier settlement of fishermen, farmers, and local warriors. That changed forever in the mid-15th century. In 1457, a samurai warlord named Oda Doken recognized the region's strategic value. On a rise overlooking the marshes, he built a fortified castle. At the time, it was little more than a military outpost surrounded by mud, rivers, and wetlands. But that small castle would become the foundation of one of history's greatest cities. For decades, Japan descended into chaos. Rival warlords battled endlessly for territory during the violent Sengoku period, the age of warring states. Castles rose across the country. Armies marched through villages and fields. Alliances shifted constantly. Out of this chaos emerged Tokugawa Ieyasu, a brilliant strategist and patient political leader. Tokugawa defeated his rivals at the Battle of Sekigahara in 1600. 3 years later, in 1603, he became shogun, the military ruler of Japan. Instead of governing from Kyoto, Tokugawa chose Edo as his seat of power. The decision transformed history. Almost immediately, Edo exploded with construction. Marshes were drained, rivers were redirected. Roads, bridges, canals, and districts spread rapidly across the landscape. Workers arrived by the thousands. Samurai families, merchants, craftsmen, laborers, and servants flooded into the growing city. At the center stood Edo Castle, one of the largest fortified palace complexes ever built. Massive stone walls surrounded towers, gates, gardens, and administrative buildings. Moats stretched for miles. Entire neighborhoods developed around the castle to support the growing government of the Tokugawa shogunate. Then came one of the most important systems in Japanese history, Sankin-kotai. Under this policy, regional lords, known as daimyo, were required to spend every other year living in Edo. Their families remained there permanently as political hostages to ensure loyalty to the shogun. The system changed everything. Thousands of samurai traveled constantly between their home provinces and Edo. Roads filled with giant processions carrying banners, armor, servants, and supplies. Entire industries emerged to support travel and trade. Money poured into the city. Merchants grew rich. Markets expanded. Artisans perfected their crafts. Neighborhoods multiplied across the city faster than planners could control them. Within less than a century, Edo became the largest city in the world. More than 1 million people lived there by the 18th century, at a time when London and Paris were still far smaller. At the heart of Edo stood Nyanbashi, the bridge of Japan. It became the commercial center of the nation. Fish markets overflowed with fresh catches from the bay. Rice merchants controlled enormous fortunes. Silk, ceramics, paper, woodblock prints, and luxury goods moved through crowded streets packed with traders and shoppers. The city never truly slept. By night, lanterns illuminated entertainment districts alive with music, theater, gambling, and conversation. Kabuki actors became celebrities. Sumo wrestling tournaments drew enormous crowds. Tea houses and restaurants filled narrow alleyways. And deep inside the famous Yoshiwara Pleasure District, Edo's floating world flourished. The floating world, Ukiyo, celebrated beauty, pleasure, fashion, and escape from daily life. Courtesans, poets, artists, and actors shaped an urban culture unlike anything Japan had seen before. Artists such as Hokusai and Hiroshige captured the spirit of Edo in vivid ukiyo-e woodblock prints. They painted bridges crowded with travelers, sudden rainstorms over the Sumida River, distant views of Mount Fuji rising beyond the city, and ordinary people moving through one of the busiest urban environments on Earth. But Edo's greatness came with constant danger. The city was built mostly from wood and paper. Homes stood tightly packed together along narrow streets. Open flames heated homes and cooked food throughout the city. Fire was everywhere. Again and again, massive infernos swept through Edo. The worst came in 1657. The Great Meiji Fire. Driven by powerful winds, flames consumed huge sections of the city for days. Entire neighborhoods vanished. Temples collapsed. Bridges burned. Tens of thousands fled through smoke-filled streets as firestorms surrounded them. More than 100,000 people died. Yet Edo rebuilt itself almost immediately. Again and again, disaster struck, and again, the city returned larger and more organized than before. Wider streets were built. Fire breaks expanded. Watchtowers and firefighting brigades developed across the city. Resilience became part of Edo's identity. By the 19th century, however, the Tokugawa system was beginning to weaken. Economic problems spread across the country. Samurai fell into debt. Rural famines created unrest. Corruption weakened confidence in the government. Then, in 1853, black ships appeared in Edo Bay. American Commodore Matthew Perry arrived with heavily armed steam-powered warships unlike anything Japan had ever seen. Their dark smoke and iron hulls shocked the population. For over 2 centuries, Japan had remained largely isolated from the outside world. That isolation was ending. Under intense pressure from foreign powers, the shogunate opened trade relations with the West. Many Japanese believed the government had failed to protect the country's independence. Political movements demanding change grew stronger. Meanwhile, Edo suffered another catastrophe. In 1855, the Ansei earthquake struck the city violently. Buildings collapsed. Fires erupted. Thousands died. Fear and instability spread rapidly through the population. The old order was crumbling. By 1867, supporters of the emperor moved against the Tokugawa shogunate. Civil war erupted. The centuries-old rule of the shoguns collapsed. The age of the samurai was ending. In 1868, Edo was renamed Tokyo, meaning Eastern Capital. Power officially shifted from Kyoto to the new imperial capital. The Meiji Restoration had begun. Japan modernized with astonishing speed. Western clothing, architecture, railways, factories, and technology transformed the city. Brick buildings replaced older wooden districts in some areas. Gas lamps illuminated streets. Telegraph wires stretched overhead. In 1872, Japan's first railway connected Tokyo and Yokohama. Industrial factories spread along the Sumida River. Universities, military academies, and government ministries expanded rapidly. Tokyo became the political, economic, and intellectual center of modern Japan. Victory in the Russo-Japanese War in 1905 shocked the world. For the first time in modern history, an Asian power defeated a major European empire. Japan emerged as a rising global force, and Tokyo stood at the center of that transformation. During the Taisho era, Tokyo experienced a brief but vibrant period of cultural freedom and democratic energy. Cafes, jazz halls, cinemas, and modern fashion filled the city. Newspapers expanded. Then disaster struck once again. On September 1st, 1923, the Great Kanto earthquake devastated Tokyo and Yokohama. Buildings collapsed instantly. Fires spread through shattered neighborhoods. Entire districts disappeared beneath smoke and flames. For 3 terrifying days, fires consumed the city. Over 140,000 people died. But once again, Tokyo rebuilt. Modern roads replaced older streets. Concrete buildings rose higher than before. Radio broadcasting expanded. Movie theaters flourished. By the 1930s, Tokyo had become a powerful imperial capital. Yet dark clouds gathered again. Militarism spread through Japan. Nationalist ideology intensified. The nation moved toward war. In December 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. The Pacific War began. As the conflict turned against Japan, American B-29 bombers began massive firebombing raids over Tokyo. Then came the night of March 9, 1945. Hundreds of bombers dropped incendiary bombs across densely populated neighborhoods. Wooden homes ignited instantly. Hurricane-force winds created a giant firestorm. People suffocated in smoke. Families jumped into rivers trying to escape the flames. Entire districts vanished overnight. Nearly 100,000 people died in a single night, one of the deadliest air raids in human history. By the end of the war, nearly 70% of Tokyo had been destroyed. On August 15, 1945, Emperor Hirohito announced Japan's surrender. The war was over. Tokyo lay in ruins. Burned streets stretched endlessly across the city. Food shortages threatened survival. Black markets appeared among the wreckage as ordinary people struggled to live day by day. American occupation forces arrived under General Douglas MacArthur. Many believed Tokyo would never recover. But recovery had already begun. Families rebuilt homes from scrap wood and salvaged materials. Businesses reopened in temporary structures. Factories restarted production. Out of devastation emerged one of the greatest economic recoveries in modern history. The Japanese economic miracle transformed Tokyo during the 1950s and 1960s. Factories produced electronics, cars, cameras, and machinery for global markets. New highways crossed the city. Office towers rose rapidly above expanding business districts. Then futuristic skyscrapers. Quiet gardens survive beneath elevated highways. Tiny wooden alleyways hide between giant glass towers. Akihabara became the global center of anime, gaming, and otaku culture. Shibuya Crossing became one of the most recognizable intersections on Earth. Thousands moving together in organized chaos beneath giant digital screens. Tokyo Skytree rose above the skyline in 2012 as the tallest structure in Japan. Beneath the streets lies an entire underground world of train stations, shopping centers, tunnels, and infrastructure supporting millions of people every single day. And yet, despite all its technology and speed, Tokyo still remembers its past. Cherry blossoms still bloom every spring along rivers and parks. Ancient shrines remain crowded, with visitors praying quietly beneath towering office buildings. Tokyo is a city of endless contrasts, silence and noise, tradition and futurism, order and chaos, destruction and rebirth. It has survived earthquakes, fires, war, economic collapse, and unimaginable transformation. And every single time, it rebuilt itself stronger than before. From a forgotten marshland village called Edo to the largest urban civilization ever created by humanity, Tokyo continues to evolve, still building, still changing, still moving forward.